Alright, so I'm going to do another video, on the teachings of the enlightened ones. And last time I did I did a video from the book called Mad as Hell. Why is everything getting crazier? And I definitely needed to get that out and talk about that subject. Because on the last video I was emotional, and you just need to get that out and feel that sometime. So I'm gonna go back to the original book, the Illuminati, from the Illuminati series, and which is giving the history of the Illuminati. Outlining its bringing into the world by the Fosters that were sent by Abraxas, the true God, into the Demerouge, into the world of common day, from obviously beyond this world. And they gave their knowledge to mystic holy men, mystic wanderers and travelers in the desert. And then those mystic wanderers and travelers ended up teaching King Solomon. And that is where King Solomon became illuminated and got his knowledge. And then the lineage continued on and got passed on to Greece, where Pythagoras became the first Grand Master. And obviously it travels through time, through different civilizations and cultures, but their presence has always been there throughout the millennia, even when they've had to be in hiding. They've had to be in hiding all the time, but they've been the shadows that serve the light, and they've been the hidden hand behind revolutions to free the world. So I'm gonna get back to talking about the Illuminati and their history, and where I left off in the last book was basically in the time of Rome. We're going on to Rome now. Optimates versus populars. The nobility of ancient Rome were referred to as patricians, and the commoners as plebeians. Plebes. The plebeians sought better treatment and enhanced rights from the patricians, but it was always a struggle to win any concessions. Without credible political representation, the plebeians had little chance of gaining a true voice in the Roman Republic. So that's just saying how, patricians and plebeians were the classes of Rome, which it's the same thing. You have the elite and then you have the people. Same day, same thing as Rome, modern day. You have the patricians and the plebeians. And the plebeians, which are the people, were never represented in the government because they never had proper representation, political, credible representation, which is, the same thing, gaining a true voice in the people gaining a true voice in the Roman Republic, which were the plebeians. They never did that because it was ruled by the elite, by the patricians, by the Optimates. And it is the same thing today. And it's the same struggle today. So, we have to wake up that the struggle is still the same. It's the rich people versus the poor people. And we have to have proper representation in the confines of government, which a plutocrat like Donald Trump is not the best person in office to represent the people, because he's one of the elite. To try to improve their lot, the plebeians on several occasions carried out an act of mass protest, similar to a general strike. Each time they abandoned the city en masse in an act known as successio plebis, succession of the plebes, withdrawals of the commoners, and left the patricians to themselves. All shops and workshops closed, and all commerce in the city halted. On one occasion, the plebe soldiers refused to fight for the patricians. On another occasion, the plebes threatened to build a new city, free of nobility. The patricians were forced to come to terms and offer political powers to the plebeians. So, back in the Roman days, the plebeians definitely rose up and went on strike, and in mass a couple of times left the city, closed down all the shops, even didn't fight for them, and that actually gave them a voice when they did that. And that's what we need to do today, which is stop supporting democracy, stop supporting free market Zionist capitalism, and stop supporting Abrahamism, because that will give the people the voice. But the whole system has been created for people to not oppose the system that enslaves them. And by brainwashing and junk food, junk TV, junk video games, all the distractions to stop people from rising up. That is the one mission of the old world order, of the elite, is to get the people, is to, give them a reasonable amount of comfort, which is what has always been what they've done with slaves, is give them a reasonable amount of comfort so they don't raise up. And that's what we see today, even though it's not comfortable, because the recession, no one, the jobs are paying, just shit. Everybody is in debt. It's time to fucking rise up against the system, which means to stop supporting it, which means to stop supporting the government that is responsible for this system, which is voting for democracy. It's time for a new form of government, which is meritocracy, and we the people have to demand that, because democracy has failed us and it's completely corrupted. And we can see that with a plutocrat, a rich person being in office, because they got there because they're rich, not because of merit. Isn't it time for a modern successio plebis to show the elite who's really in charge? The word veto is Latin for I forbid. Shouldn't we forbid the ever-widening gap between the rich and the poor? The people can change everything at any time of their choosing, just as the Roman plebes did by going on general strike. The plebeians were permitted to elect 10 political representatives called tribunes, from Latin tribus, tribe, who were empowered to convene the plebeian council, people's assembly, act as its president, and propose legislation. It was illegal for patricians to do tribunes any harm. Their lives were sacrosanct because they were regarded as the personal embodiment of the plebeians. They had the power of veto in many matters and were entitled to intervene legally on behalf of plebeians. A tribune had the right to summon the Senate to submit policies for consideration. It was illegal for any patrician to serve as a tribune. So this is talking about how, the plebeians were given power, political representation, and 10 political representatives called tribunes in the government of Rome to represent the people. And, the patricians couldn't do anything against them, and they were the voice of the people, and they could veto stuff and make legislation, and actually have a voice, which that voice has been taken away. If that were the case, if the people had a voice, we would not be in the situation we are in today. You know what I'm saying? Where we're fucking trillions of dollars in debt. The education system is just shit. Like, everything is shit. The, environment, taking care of everything, it's just shit because the wrong people have the power. The privileged people have the power. So this is showing, how in the Roman days they got fucking so sick of it that they did go on strike. You know what I'm saying? They went on revolution. They revolted, which is the same thing we're going to do today, because it's going to get so bad that the people are going to storm the White House. They're going to do crazy things. And actually, the gathering of that was actually a good thing, because that was a massive amount of people revolting, you know what I'm saying, against the government. And that needs to happen again. In the 2nd century BCE, 2 remarkable brothers, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, known as the Gracchi, were elected as tribunes of the plebes and used their power in an unprecedented way to challenge the elite. Roman politics was changed forever. Certain issues, such as who had the right to become a citizen and how and where land and property should be allocated to citizens, were becoming causes of increasing tension between patricians and plebeians, and the Gracchi became the vox populi, the voice of the people, demanding radical reform. The stage was set for an almighty political showdown. So this reveals about the Gracchus brothers becoming tribunes and a voice of the people, and them changing the government and making, an impact, for the people. And they were Illuminati. Thanks to the Gracchi, a political movement emerged known as the Populars, favoring the people, the Popular Party. They wished to curb the power of the patrician Senate and enhance the rights and living conditions of the people. Leaders of the Populars movement were known as populists or demagogues, leaders of the people. In general, they campaigned for the extension of citizenship to provincials, for cancellations of debts where they had become extortionate, and for the fair distribution of land and property. So, this is what we need to fucking do today, because they were, cancellation of debts, fair distribution of land. They formed another party called the Popular Party, which would be the same thing as another party forming in our government, which is going to be the Meritocratic Party, is going to dialectically come about in time. And this is going to be like the new Populars, for the patricians, because it goes in a cycle, and they've been trying to keep this cycle from going on, but we're going to rise up again and demand something different than the system in government that is enslaving us. The political faction that opposed them was called the Optimates, best men. They were also known as Boni, good men. The Optimates were the establishment party, the advocates of firm patrician senatorial rule. They were conservatives, defending the traditions of Rome and the existing ruling order. They strove to maintain the power and privileges of the elite and limited the power of the people. They exercised their power through the Senate. This was just the Roman version of the Washington, D.C. political establishment. It is perhaps unsurpassing that America has its own patrician state, Senate, with the plebes having the House of Representatives. In the UK, there is a patrician House of the Lords, unelected, and a House of Commons. Labels such as Lords and Commons shows how anachronistic, absurd, divisive and elitist British politics remains. So this is just giving an outline of, how nothing's really changed. It's the same thing, and the Senate is pretty much like the Optimates, and the House of Representatives is like the Populars. But the Senate really has the power, and all the privileged people in all those positions. I'm not saying all of them are, but more than most, because once again, if the people were actually in power, the world would not be fucked up, and our nation would not be fucked up like it is. This is a fucking circus that's going on, and we need the best people in the best positions saying stuff, not taking shit, so that this fucking clown show can end, and it can stop being supported, because this is straight up idiocracy. The Optimates promoted the interests of the noble families, i.e. the typical OWO dynastic families of privilege and power, and fought hard to hold back the rise of Navi homines, new men, often from the provinces and out with the Roman nobility, and often advocates of the People's Party. The most famous and talented novus homo was Cicero, the first of his family to enter the Senate, and who ironically chose to be on the Optimate side. He ingratiated himself with them by the simple tactic of always taking their side. This won him their support, but they never liked or trusted him. He was always an outsider, not one of us, lower class, unrefined, lacking patrician taste and manners, despite the brilliance of his mind. So this talks about Cicero, being one of the new men, the Navi homines, the people that challenged the Populars. He actually gained favor from, he became one of the Populars, and he chose to be on the Optimate side. And basically, he never really was accepted by them, by the Optimates, because he was a Popular, one of the patrician, one of the people, and even though he had a brilliant mind, he still wasn't accepted by the elite, which is the same case today. Brilliant minds all out there, but we're not one of them, so they don't accept us. We are cannon fodder. We are stuff that can be smashed down, and that should fucking make you mad. That people think of us this way. The elite think of us this way. Donald Trump thinks of us this way because he is one of the elite. But he can charade and do all this stuff and pretend like he cares, but he is definitely not doing what is best for the people. Yes, he's doing, I admit, it's better having him than Joe Biden, but neither of them would be better. As democracy falls, in the years ahead, and we're getting a new government coming in, it's going to be clear that the best people need to be in the best positions to save, like the world, and we have to remove them out of their positions of power. They have to die, or we have to remove them out of their positions, which is actually in the process of happening right now. And actually we have to remove their power which can be done through 100% inheritance tax. That is a meritocratic principle, and that will take away the elite's power. And so we as a whole society have to agree on meritocracy and 100% inheritance tax, because what you earn during your life will go back to the commonwealth, the people, the government, and the government will be ran by the best people. So obviously they'll make sure that that money is used the right way for education, for just the right things, and for the advancement of society. And that's what 100% inheritance tax can do. And meritocracy. The Optimates sought to restrict the extension of the Roman citizenship and to preserve the ancient traditions of their forefathers. They strove always to uphold the oligarchy of the noble families. They dominated the Senate and acted as a continual block on social reform. They particularly feared popular generals who enjoyed the support of both the people and the army. So that's like Maximus, because the Optimates were seeking to just restrict citizenship, keep the power in the oligarchy. They dominated the Senate and looked to block social reform, which is the same thing that the elites are doing today. The old world order is the same old world order from back then, so it's the same thing. And the Illuminati are bringing this all to light so that we can know the truth about our government, about the controlling factors of it, and so we can be educated, because that's what's going to lead to our freedom. The members of both political factions belong to the wealthier classes. No ordinary people ever had any power in Rome. No plebeian without influential connections ever served in the Senate or in formal government. No plebeian without influential connections had the benefit of an education. Members of branches of patrician families that had fallen on hard times and lost their status was regarded as plebeian by the snobs of the nobility. But such plebeian families had nothing in common with the masses of true plebeians, i.e. all the common people living in the slums. Often these plebeian nobles were determined to regain former glories. They turned to the people for support, since they certainly wouldn't get if they established nobility. At the zenith of the Optimates' power, the dictator Lucius Cornelius Sulla posted throughout Rome long lists of populars to be executed. The named individuals were stopped on sight and summarily put to death. This was the true terror, having to check lists of the condemned to see if your name was on there, knowing that if you could be killed instantly if it was. The only reason why that's not happening today is because there aren't people. I mean, there are people that are threats to the government, they're called targeted individuals, but they don't have enough power to actually overthrow the government. That's what we're getting to with being targeted individuals, is the same thing. Us, the plebeians, being able to get through to the people, about the truth, about the elites ruling us. And we put our lives on the line before in time, like they say that your name was put on a list when in Rome, because when in Rome, it's funny because we're in Rome, but in the modern day. That's exactly what it is. And like gladiator sports, bread and circuses, UFC, X Factor, American Idol, Those are all bread and circuses that keep the people from rising up. But it's known that there is going to be another revolution, and there is going to have to be something to get behind. You know, all these groups, all these different groups out there, you know, are all gonna fight till the end, but the Illuminati are gonna be the last one standing. So it's gonna be very important to be with the enlightened ones at the end, which we're getting to. Caesar. Julius Caesar was a member of one of Rome's oldest and most respectable noble families, yet he championed the populares' political faction. He was opposed by Pompey the Great, a novus homo, who fought on behalf of the Senate and the Optimates. Behind his public mask, Caesar had complete contempt for plebeians, but nevertheless continually courted their support against the Senate. To achieve his goal of becoming the supreme leader of Rome, a king or emperor, he had to smash the power of the Senate. Hence, he cynically exploited the plebeians. He was assassinated by a combination of Optimates defending the interests of the Senate and the nobility, and populares who foresaw that Caesar would become a tyrant and the enemy of the people. So this talks about Caesar being in, you know, he was in support of the populares, you know, the people. He was actually in support of them and against the Optimates in Senate, and that's why he was. That's why they killed him, you know. And he was also killed by some plebeians too that were part of it. You know, obviously they were really Optimates, but the people that were involved in his assassination assassinated him because he was for the people. The civil war that followed Caesar's death led to the end of the Roman Republic and the creation of the Roman Empire under the first emperor, Octavian Augustus Caesar, nephew of heir of Julius Caesar. Imperial succession then followed on a mostly hereditary basis, although eventually rival generals fought it out for the crown. So this goes and says, you know, after Caesar's death, the Civil War followed, and the Roman Republic turned into the Roman Empire, you know, and basically the Roman emperors were became emperor through succession, you know, so the power remained. That's old world order power being carried out in perpetuity because of succession and inheritance, which is, you know, to the people's extreme detriment, because we don't have anything, they have it all. And you know, it says that, you know, sometimes there were generals, you know, that had power with the plebeians and the Optimates, because they were, you know, fought with the armies, you know, which are obviously all plebeians, but they were accepted by the Optimates because they were going out and winning the wars. So the generals were able sometimes to fight it out to get on the throne. Caesar, a patrician, was no supporter of the lower classes, but he was prepared to use them to advance. And this is talking about Augustus Caesar. This is talking about Octavian Augustus Caesar. This wasn't actually Julius Caesar. So this is a Roman emperor, you know, that came after Julius Caesar. Likewise, many Roman politicians appealed to whatever constituency served their interest at a particular time. They had no principles or political ideology. Self-interest was their only guide. It has been said by historians that the clashes between the populares and the Optimates were nothing whatever to do with cosmopolite stances and concerned only raw power. A patrician who had no interest in the people would nevertheless pander to them if it were politically expedient, just like today. The Roman patricians were infamously devoted to power. The entire Roman culture was brutally militaristic and power-driven. Imagine America being run by hundreds of vigorous, ambitious, ruthless, battle-hardened generals in the prime of life, rather than soft, decrepit politicians. And you will get a flavor of the savage power and politics of ancient Rome. So, this is just saying, yeah, I mean, it was different back then because people were hard. People were hardcore. And, today, people are softer. And, especially with liberalism and that being connected to like wokeness and that epidemic taking over America, which is definitely something that this nation and world is in danger of, is the wokeness. We have to stop that shit. You know what I'm saying? We have to stop the liberalism too. And, conservatism is obviously putting a stop to that, but there's even a better way, a third way, than conservative, like Democrat, Republican. It's meritocrat. The Roman patricians were infamously devoted to power. The entire Roman culture was brutally militaristic and power-driven. Oh, wait, hold on. I already read that. Politics was conducted like war. The ends always justified the means. Victory was everything. It didn't matter how it was achieved. Bribery, corruption, blackmail, and assassination were all perfectly acceptable. Same thing today. After all, if you won and then ordered the execution of all your rivals for treason, who would oppose you? Since money bought power, the Roman elite were infamous for their corruption, just like the modern politicians of nations like America and Britain. Jugurtha, king of Numidia, Algeria, said of Rome's fatal weakness for money, Urbem vanillem et mature periturem, si impeturum en venerit. The city's life is for sale, and it would kill itself if it could find a buyer. Doesn't that sound like Wall Street, Washington, D.C., or Hollywood? Ancient Rome has been reincarnated in America. So, that's just making the parallel of Washington, D.C., Wall Street, Hollywood. It's the same thing was in ancient Rome. So, what was going on in Roman days, which, was the old world order being in control, is the same thing going on today. And we have to actually, like they said, start clubs, like Jacobin clubs, that they started in revolutionary France, talking about what we're gonna do at the fall of the system. That's happening right now, because even the elite know that this isn't gonna work out, and if we have something to replace it, which we do, then that will be what will be instilled. And that actually leads to our quantum leap in our evolution when we're able to replace the system. So the more minds that are awakened to the truth that there is something else other than this. This is not all that there is. The Illuminati have made a blueprint of the New World Order. That's a Star Trek society that will lead us to a Star Trek society. through meritocracy, through social and national capitalism, and through illumination. But first, the old world order must fall. First, Abrahamism must fall. Free market Zionist capitalism and democracy, which we are in the age of the fall of those things. So it's the best thing to get ready with learning about what the Illuminati are talking about, because they are going to be in power, and the world is going to be a much better place. So, all right, that's it. Till next time.